during the past year, we've spent quite a bit of time as a board speaking about our diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice principles and commitments, particularly in the context of the executive orders from the federal government. And um, we've determined that diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice is part and parcel of the college's mission, both because we are a Catholic institution, Catholic social teaching, it's in the mission statement, and also because an institution founded by the Sisters of St. Joseph and their social justice mission. And at the last April DAIJ committee meeting, as we were continuing to converse about that, the idea came that, how best to have the board really step into that conversation or admission, then through a presentation or a testimony by the Sisters of St. Joseph about how the sisters live their mission. We asked the sisters, they agreed to do this for us, and they took it very seriously. And really, we're delighted that they are going to lead us into this conversation about mission. And so, without further ado, turn it over to my sisters.
Good morning. Good morning. Over time, Dr. Dumais has often referenced the expression in the tradition of the Sisters of St. Joseph. And we would like to share with you just how the Sisters of St. Joseph internalize and live that mission. The foundation for that tradition is our mission statement, which is not strange to any of you. And I quote, "To unite neighbor with neighbor and neighbor with God without distinction, that all may be one," end of quote. Our mission calls us to respect the dignity of others and to stand in solidarity with others whom we are called to accompany. The greatest gift that we give one is the gift of ourselves. The strength of our mission is experienced when seen or felt by others, hence the necessity of sharing it and giving it away to the dear neighbor. It is only in living the mission that the mission is experienced. The Sisters of St. Joseph are not the sole carrier of the mission. In the process of opening ourselves to others, walking in solidarity, and assisting others in difficult times, our mission becomes alive and active. Living our mission is about establishing relationships with trust. Since the origins of our congregation, our story lives in each person our sisters have touched, taught, served, healed, and loved. Our neighbor is where God dwells, especially in the one who needs care, attention, and love. Who we are called to be goes back to our early sisters, and from our early documents, I quote, "who were called forth to undertake all the spiritual and corporal works of mercy of which women are capable, end of quote. From early days and into our current time, our sisters work diligently and tirelessly in creating a passion for weaving unity shaped through respect and dignity of all people, appreciation for diversity, and collaboration. We continue to do this today. Our tradition began in 1650 in the small town of Lerpuy, France, when 6 young women desirous of loving God and serving the neighbor came together under the guidance of Father Jean-Pierre Médaille, a Jesuit who later approached Bishop Henri du Maupas, Bishop of Lerpuy, who supported establishing communities of women for apostolic and active ministries. He then named this group the Congregation of the Sisters of St. Joseph, October 15th, 1650, just yesterday. For me, mission becomes alive simply because I love God. Because of this, I strive to listen intently to another, have the freedom to move beyond my comfort zone, and trust God, to be compassionate and understanding with others, as these values beget kindness. I am conscious of respecting all peoples and confident in recognizing the presence of God among all of you and others. Our history, mission, and charism stem from the spirit of our early sisters and all those who followed. Their determination to meet the needs of the dear neighbor, to venture to unknown territories, to expand their ministries, to accept challenges, and to educate so many over time gives living credence to the life of our mission. Many of these sisters have shared their love, talents, and skills here at the Elms since 1928. We celebrate what has transpired and continue to remain proud of all our sisters who have preceded us. Through the commitment of faith, compassion, and kindness of the many sisters who have preceded us, we have seen love in action, hope alive, and service provided daily to our dear neighbors without distinction. I now would like to introduce Sister Eleanor, who is an alum and also a former professor of the college, and she will share with you or highlight with you 4 of the qualities that we see being lived out in our mission in the tradition of the Sisters of St. Joseph. Eleanor?
Thank you. Good morning. Throughout these 375 years, there have been 4 constant values that have guided us. The first of these is spirituality, which is deeply rooted in our faith in God's love for all people. We respond to this love by modeling our lives and our mission on the teachings and example of Jesus as we encounter him in the Gospels. Our spirituality is deepened through prayer and meditation, and through meeting Jesus in the Eucharist and in the face of each person we encounter. We strive to live out his instructions, to love God and love the neighbor. In the years following the Second Vatican Council, in accordance with a document which focuses on the renewal of religious life, our prayer life changed from monastic to apostolic forms. The emphasis was no longer on reciting rote prayers, as on developing a deeply personal relationship with God. The second constant is adaptability. From our beginnings, we have focused on the unmet needs of the times. From teaching lace making in the 17th century to teaching the skills needed to work in the factories of the Industrial Revolution, to coming to America to teach the deaf, to coming to Springfield to teach the children of immigrants in parish schools, to the range of ministries that we have embraced, we have striven to adapt to the wide range of God's call. The third constant has been inclusivity. Inclusivity has meant that we were to serve the dear neighbor without distinction, whoever that neighbor may be. There are 2 notable events that have shaped us profoundly as Sisters of St. Joseph of Springfield. The first of these followed much reflection on the question, who is the neighbor? In the early 80s, Sister Kathleen Keating, who was president of the congregation, asked each member to leave her comfort zone to make the stranger the neighbor. And we did. We moved outward and engaged with individuals and groups who were previously unknown to us. We volunteered at soup kitchens, food pantries, homeless shelters, prisons, to name a few. We grew to shed fears and stereotypes, and we were changed. Later, Sister Mary Hannon, then president of the congregation, invited anyone who wished to come to a dreamer's brunch. Here we were asked to share our dreams about embodying mission in new ways, where we would serve neighbors to whom we had not previously been called. New ministries were born, and once again, we were changed. The fourth constant value is serving unmet needs. In addition to the establishment of educational ministries, there were many less known contributions that were made in the areas where we ministered. For example, we promoted changes to Springfield institutions like the York Street Jail. In 1887, in an atmosphere of anti-Catholicism, Sister Mary Cecilia, our first Reverend Mother, was able to convince the jail administration to allow Mass once a month. On those Sundays, she and 3 other sisters went to the jail, where she would play the organ and the other 3 would lead the singing. In addition, she established a library for the prisoners, which existed until York Street was closed in the 1980s. In the years following Vatican II, we were called to many new ministries, some of which were social work, alternative education, social justice work, pastoral care in parishes and healthcare settings, prison ministry, to name some. We did this while maintaining a presence in the traditional schools, including the Elms. These 4 values have been our grounding over the centuries as we discerned each new call to ministry. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce Sister Jean Bosley, educator and librarian, who will share how she has lived and still lived the mission as viewed through the lens of Catholic social teaching.
My experience mirrors that of anyone who's familiar with Catholic social teaching and intentionally incorporates its tenets into their life and profession. My experience in education includes classroom teaching and librarianship. Beloved Elms professor Sister John Martha Joyce introduced her sociology students to the papal encyclicals Rerum Novarum and Quadragesimo Anno in her Catholic social thought course. A personal example of including Catholic social teaching in my 7th grade geography classes in the 1960s was incorporating 16mm free-loan Maryknoll films for many of the African and South American countries in the curriculum. These age-appropriate films presented history, customs, language, dress, foods, and holidays, which help students to appreciate diverse peoples and cultures beyond the United States. How did I end up as a librarian? My vow of obedience. In my second year at St. Thomas, West Springfield, my superior and principal assigned another sister and me to start a school library. A recently passed law allowed non-public schools to purchase library books with federal funds. With no knowledge of where to start, Sister Jean O'Shea came from Cathedral High School. What happened? Don't lean on it. Okay. Sister Jean O'Shea came from Cathedral High School to guide us. We taught school all day and worked on establishing the library in our spare time. 5 years later came Mother Borgia's letter, "The will of God for you next year is librarian at St. Joseph High School, Pittsfield." An early requirement in one course for my library science degree was writing a sample book selection policy, something every library should have. What I wrote in 1970 was the basis for St. Joseph's collection development policy, approved by faculty and administration. Although not called to minister directly in social justice areas, such as with the marginalized or in mission fields in the US or other countries, Catholic social teaching was implicit in St. Joseph's collection development policy. That included providing books, media, and periodicals that supported the curriculum and reading interests of students and faculty. There was print and media about world religions, a senior course, print and media by and about civil rights leaders for the junior year social justice course. Ecology and environment were among the science materials. There were displays in observance of Black History Month, Women's History Month, and the Holocaust. In an English elective film study course I taught at St. Joe, I included a short Oscar-winning anti-war film, which is at once powerful and contemporary. Neighbors, a 1952 film from the National Film Board of Canada, shows two men arguing, then fighting, over who owns a flower on their property line, with disastrous results. In teaching research skills, I used social justice topics as examples whenever possible, as students learned about proper use of the databases provided by the state to libraries and K-12 schools in their search for information for a research paper or class presentation. After my arrival at St. Joseph's, my adventures in librarianship expanded when alumni librarians welcomed me to attend meetings and workshops of the New England Association, chapter of Catholic Library Association, with them. The Elms hosted many of these meetings. Over the years, the Elms librarians and I held many appointed and elected positions at both the chapter and national levels of CLA. My term as national president transitioned into 14 years as executive director. In that position, I continued to be mindful of the Catholic social teaching principles that guided me both as a teacher and a high school librarian. In short, my experience is not unique, but simply an example of what any educator imbued with a Catholic social teaching background would do. Now I'd like to introduce Sister Catherine Ormond, an Elms alumna, who exemplifies the embodiment of mission through a range of ministries, and now well beyond those formal positions.
Thank you, Jean. Can everybody hear me? As trustees, we know that the Elms College provides a liberal arts education with professional studies, preparing and empowering diverse groups of students to effect changes both near and far. We work to accomplish that mission as we also seek to instill the values of our founders, the Sisters of St. Joseph. These values, such as service and compassion, are reflected in activities such as service trips to assisted groups near and far, and our annual day of service in local agencies. As an Elms alum, I learned such values that are rooted in the college Catholic identity. As Sisters of St. Joseph for nearly 60 plus years, I have had a range of opportunities to live these values with the context of our community and our own community mission, uniting neighbor with neighbor and neighbor with God without distinction. I never did lace making as our sisters did in France. Much has changed since our founding, but our mission has endured. As a community and as individuals, we have been and continue to be adjust to the changing needs of our times. I began as a teacher at Cathedral High School and then went into the guidance department. Then I became Director of Pupil Services in the Diocese of Springfield. This was followed by being a social worker at Charles River Hospital in Chicopee, working with adolescents with mental limitations and then with women. I have also been a pastoral minister at St. Patrick's in South Hadley and then at St. Jerome's in Holyoke. Today, my life continues to be as I volunteer with our Take and Eat program, a parish food program, and as sacristan at Mayor's Meadow, a Providence Place, a long-term care and rehabilitation facility owned by the Sisters of Providence, and as a visitor to the homebound at Blessed Sacrament Parish in Holyoke. I continue to be blessed with opportunities to know and grow with our neighbors. Regardless of the ministry, I try to embody kindness and listening as the most important qualities that I can give to another I encounter. I have enjoyed every ministry with its own demands and limitations. As changes occur, my community will continue to adapt. As we encounter new challenges, may we, as a board and community, continue to meet them. And now I'd like to introduce Sister Maxine Snyder, who is now a trustee emerita and Elms volunteer tutor. We'll note how these four values of the Sisters of St. Joseph tradition articulated by Eleanor Spring at this moment. Thank you. And good morning.
Good morning.
It's a joy for me personally to have been an Elms faculty member and in a small way still to be part of Elms. But my job here today is to connect the four characteristics of the SSJ tradition to the college itself. You'll recognize some of these connections, but first, let me tell you two things you may not know. Both have to do with the very personal investment made by sisters at Elms. They deal with labor and money. First, labor. Elms foundress, Mother John Berkmans, set the example. She would settle for nothing less than excellence for this new college, and so visited every Catholic college in the Northeast to observe best practices from curriculum to furnishings. Also, as late as the 1960s, the same sisters who were the faculty for the day, evening, and summer sessions were also house mothers, took their turn on the switchboard, and cleaned the buildings. Come summer, this meant deep cleaning of the entire campus. Second, money. Compensation for Elms sisters was linked to the diocesan stipend. In the early 80s, about $4,000 a year. Contributed services equaled the difference between the stipend and what a layperson would be paid in that same position. By the late 80s, Sister Mary Dooley's salary grew to $15,000, while other area presidents were earning $100,000 to $200,000. Her contributed services over the 15 years of her presidency amounted to about $2 million. Kathleen Keating's about $750,000 over the 7 years of her presidency. Calculation of the contributed services of all 250 plus sisters over the years is not possible. Against this background, here are the 4 points of our SSJ tradition that Sister Eleanor Spring cited. Our spirituality was the underpinning for the Elms founding. reflected in the original curriculum, which immersed students in the depths of the Catholic intellectual tradition, as well as in spiritual practice. Still true today is the intent to follow Jesus Christ as revealed in the Gospels, while welcoming those of other faith traditions. The St. Augustine Center for Ethics, Religion, and Culture is but one expression of this. Campus ministry, of course, another. Adaptability to changing needs at Elms shows in the expansion of professional degree programs and our becoming coeducational in 1998, in addition of a first doctoral program, and in Elms regional leadership, for example, in its current literacy initiatives. Serving unmet needs, Elms was founded explicitly, and I quote, to offer a college education to the children of families of average means, end quote. At first, in an era of anti-Catholic sentiment and general lack of opportunity for women, Elms served the daughters of Catholic immigrants, then women more generally. From the 70s, the now Sister Kathleen Curley School of Continuing Education offered the scheduling and supports needed, for example, by single moms. The final element of the tradition is inclusivity, serving the dear neighbor without distinction and from whom we do not separate ourselves. The demographic makeup of the Elms student body, as well as the roster of programs, collaborations, and institutes reflects this. The Center for Equity in Urban Education, the Literacy Collaboratives, and our partnership in nursing education with Haiti being prime examples. There is so much more we could say, but I'm sure you can extend these ideas to what you already know about the college. This is important since as we sisters have aged and declined in numbers, we need to entrust to you, as trustees in your unique role, the continuation of this legacy. And now, I'd like to introduce Sister Carol Allen, longtime Elms staff member, and now Special Assistant to the President for Mission and Charism. Carol will speak on how the President's Cabinet consciously includes consideration of the SSJ tradition in their decisions. Carol.
In what ways does the Cabinet support the college to integrate the mission and values into the current operation, considering the realities of the world around us? Excuse me. As Special Assistant to the President on Mission and Charism, I've been afforded the opportunity to sit on the Cabinet where discussions, policies, procedures, and decisions are established. It has provided a unique view of what is important and how we embrace the Elms mission and the SSJ charism. In this time of changes, especially in higher education, it is more important than ever that we remain true to our founder's dream of providing a college education to children of ordinary means, today expanding it to include all students. This embrace of equal access to education was the underpinning of the founding of Elms. Our mission continues to extend the charism of the sisters that unite neighbors with each other, our God, without distinction. PRISM, our strategic plan, offers us a blueprint of how and where the mission and charism live in all aspects of the college. It reflects the clarion call of welcoming all, creating a community among a diverse population, producing a clear path to educate for life and living, all emphasized by values and ethics. As cabinet members, we offer financial assistance through scholarships by increasing the endowment each year, balancing the budget, make fiscal responsible decisions, and develop ways to increase the income to the college. In the academic programs, the mission and core values are integrated into the curriculum of all programs, emphasizing the core values of the college. The foundation of ethics throughout the curriculum emphasizes the embrace of our neighbor in a loving and caring manner. Admissions reaches across cultural and educational lines to offer opportunities to students to attend college and study for future employment. The welcome and inclusive acceptance is the segue into an opportunity for a future. Student affairs, which encompasses the health center, athletics, residence life, student programming, and campus ministry, provides a framework of faith development and exploration, community building in both living, programming, and athletics. Student clubs range from governance to service opportunities to social justice as an extension of our mission being lived. During my tenure as a cabinet member, I experienced the mission and charism blossoming. Each of us is faithful to bring in the mission into our work and our work with the college community. My task has been to keep alive the mission of the sisters and the Elms College and integrate it into our discussions and our conversations and providing language and experience. I think I've done that. So I'd like to introduce Sister Jane Thomas, who produced the video that you'll see later on at lunchtime. And she will read our consensus statement, a distillation of our tradition, charism, mission throughout these 375 years. Sister Jane?
Thank you, Carol. And now, as our presentation comes to a conclusion, I would like to read the consensus statement of the central ideas of the Jesuit priest, John P. Medaya, a spiritual mentor of the First Sisters of St. Joseph. Derived from the primitive documents, it summarizes the spirituality and charism of the Sisters of St. Joseph throughout the world. Stimulated by the Holy Spirit of love and receptive to God's inspirations, the Sister of St. Joseph moves always toward profound love of God and love of neighbor, from without distinction, from whom she does not separate herself, and for whom, in the following of Christ, she works in order to achieve unity both of neighbor with neighbor and neighbor with God, directly in this apostolate and indirectly through the works of charity. In humility, the Spirit of the Word incarnate. In sincere charity, the manner of St. Joseph, whose name she bears. In an Ignatian Salesian climate, that is, with an orientation toward excellence, tempered by gentleness, peace, joy. Thank you.
Maybe some of you can experience what I'm feeling right now. As a young child, I hardly ever cried. And now I cry at a drop of a pin. So thank you. Thank you. This has truly been a great opportunity for us. We've had a lot of fun, even though our first meeting we struggled, but in the end, it was great, and we always ended up sharing stories of our experiences. That's not public information, so, we're as human as the rest, but we certainly do love each other. And so to each of you, all of you, thank you. It's been a great opportunity for the few of us to get together and put this together for you. So thank you. What we'd like to do now is ask you to share among your tables some of the questions. And Bevan, could you put the questions on the screen, please? The questions are pretty basic. In the presentations, what did you hear that was most significant for you? In your experience of the Elms, what signs of the SSJ tradition have you seen? And prior to this presentation, had you considered that you have a responsibility in carrying forward the SSJ tradition? Has today's presentation made a difference in your understanding? So if we could take about 15 minutes and then just talk among ourselves with this, and then we'll call it back.
All right. Thank you. It was a very great presentation from all the sisters. Thank you so much. Brett Carroll, the Vice President of Finance and Administration, for those that don't know me. We had a great conversation at our table as well. I was volunteered to take some notes and report out. Again, we really focused on the sisters, their ability to adapt and change over the years. There was quite some talk earlier about how the sisters started with the lace making, adapted over the years, and the college has had to adapt and change over the years as well. The college going co-ed in 1998, that was obviously a huge decision for the college to do that. We also talked about resiliency. The sisters have been resilient over the years, and I think that goes along with what the college has done as well. There's been increased challenges throughout the world. The world has changed significantly since when the sisters began their mission, and the calling of the sisters have changed. But we also talk about inclusivity. The sisters have embodied inclusivity over the years, and as the college, we do that as well. We continue to be inclusive and serve the community and carry forward the mission of the sisters. And we do this to honor the legacy of the sisters. And the culture of Elms has been very impactful, and we continue to put forth that culture that's been established by the sisters. So, thank you.
Thank you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dennis Duquette, trustee. I'm work at Mass Mutual, and happy to be here, and also a product of a Sister of St. Joseph education. So this was a wonderful presentation. I think, like everyone in this room, our table was moved by it emotionally, and we weren't expecting that, but it was actually a nice way to touch all of us, and also a good way to kick off this conversation. I circled a number of words that came up, a number of qualities that came up in the course of our conversation. Obviously, inspiring was the first one. It's a very inspiring story, and it's one that we should take to heart and take with us, not just here in this room, but when we leave this room. And I think we all committed to that at our table and talked about that a bit. We were very impressed with the fidelity that the sisters have maintained for 375 years to their mission. It's a very different world today than it was 375 years ago. It's a very different Springfield than it was when the sisters arrived here. And I think the fact that we have sisters here today with us talking about that and still thriving in their mission is a testament to how strong it is, and I think serves as a great example for all of us as trustees, how we act in accordance with our role in supporting the college. Courage, no question. I mentioned that I love the jail story. I thought that was a great, having the sisters go down to the jail and just say, this is the way we're going to do it. We're going to have mass once a month. And as someone who was taught by the sisters, it's difficult to say no. But that spirituality is a common thread, I think, that came through loud and clear throughout the history, and very much informs what we're doing here today. And so then we shifted our conversation to talk about our role a lot as trustees, and how we take this, internalize it ourselves, take this tradition, internalize it ourselves as trustees, most of us lay people, and when we act on behalf of the school, but also act on behalf as a representative of the school in the community, because when we're not here, we're also, as a trustee of the Elms, and we're out in the community, we represent the school, whether we realize that or not. So that's very important. A couple great points were brought up. We need to be mindful and to remain mindful that we never lose sight of that tradition, that it informs our discussions. And no matter what craziness the world throws at us, as trustees, we need to remain grounded in the tradition that the sisters themselves have and in which they founded this school. We talked specifically about the challenges in a very secular society that we live in today, and how does that manifest itself on campus when we're talking to people and hiring people who may not have the benefit of a Catholic education. How do we make sure that we are fostering and instilling in them that tradition so that they can reflect that in their roles here at the Elms? So great conversation and tremendous appreciation and love for the sisters coming from our table. Thank you.
All right, I have, yeah, go ahead, George. We're going right through.
Thank you, Kate. So table one, we had a really great conversation. I think just like the others, really humbled, very, very humbled by what was presented today. And we feel that in terms of who we are and how we got here as a college. I think a lot of the things that have been mentioned concerning the first point, so I'm going to focus our conversation primarily on number two, and that is what we have seen, signs of the tradition today from the sisters modeled. A couple of things came out from the discussion, and one was, our campus community is really shaped, formed, and moving forward as a result of the work of the sisters. When we talk about community, we're meaning faculty, staff, students, our graduates, and our trustees. And we think about that in terms of stories shared here at the table, at the YWCA hiring 5 Elms grads and seeing the difference, the client-centeredness, seeing the difference in terms of the gratitude, making sure that they are part of the community and understanding the needs of the community and how that's shaped. There was discussion about, someone's father in the medical setting and someone asking, would you like to pray? And the father unexpectedly saying, yes, I would. And that met a need. That met a need is that person was seen as a whole person. And in addition, the discussion around when you meet somebody in a hospital or a clinical setting, sometimes you just know they're an Elms grad and how that comes across. The other thing, we talked a little bit about the presence and the impact of having sisters on campus for events and things like that, which then led us to the discussion of there are fewer than there were. And Sister Maxine shared about, 30-some sisters on campus at a time, young, everything was possible. Today, it's a very different piece. And so, sisters, you've modeled for us how you have open hands and open hearts of sharing that charism out for us, and it's our responsibility to hear, accept, and move that forward. I also took notes around the idea of the sisters modeling inclusivity, how our campus has changed in so many different ways, and that pivoting, that ability to be part of our community and learning and understanding about the dear neighbor has helped model for us our path forward. So those are just some of the pieces, especially from question 2. And so thank you.
Thank you very much. Table 4.
All right, so our table had lots of discussion, and thank you for nominating me to come up and appreciate that. I'm Lindsay Gamble, if we've never met. I'm VP and CNO of Trinity Health of New England that share their own values, very similar to Elms. My history, I also started school at St. Stanislaus here in Chicopee, so I have multiple different sisters that followed my life. So some of our notes at the table, I reflect because I learned a lot. I loved how each sister connected to each other when they spoke. Some of my table members really reflected on 40 years and connecting that. So just hearing them speak and then listening to what I learned was impactful. All right, so some of the notes say evolution and purposeful journey impacting our education and all of our experience. Just being in the presence in this room of the sisters, whether we're administrators, educators, faculty, it all had some sort of meaning for all of us. Presentation was amazing. The thread pulling it all together, like I mentioned, their traditions and their involvement. We also really enjoyed hearing about the prisons because it was unthought of back then, and they stepped out, and one of their, adaptability. What are they going to do differently? Going in there, creating library and mass. That was really special. From educating to children and all students, enjoyed hearing about the financial salaries that they had and the very limited or compassion in the stipends that they actually received. That was remarkable. We were interested in hearing how forward-thinking the sisters were in all of their ministries and their life journeys, especially in leadership and in this community. So I think that tied it all up. I hope I did it well.
Thank you. How did you draw the story?
Yeah, so the new guy, as Father Mark says, trial by fire, or baptism by fire. I'm Mike McGravy. I'm an associate professor of religious studies. 2 quick anecdotes. I was educated by Jesuits, diocesan priests, Augustinians, Spiritans, and then when I arrived here, week 1, I got called into Sister Carol's office, and I thought the ruler was coming out. I was so frightened. Story 2. It didn't happen, but story 2, this past weekend, I'm a parishioner at St. Mary's in Longmeadow, and I know Paul is as well. Father CJ asks, how many of you know and were educated by the Sisters of St. Joseph? And hands galore go up, right? And my daughter, my 10-year-old daughter, sitting next to me, and Sister Melinda's in the audience. She goes, she's a sister, right? So just the legacy of the sisters alone throughout the Pioneer Valley and Western Mass is incredible. So I think we reflected on that at our table. I think we reflected on the various roles that they've had, the charism that's lived out daily, the opportunities and the ability for our students to see that in many different ways, through our faculty, through the presence of Sister Carol on campus regularly, and then days like Wednesday when sisters are welcome to campus, they celebrate Mass with us, they have lunch with us. And the students, you can just see their faces light up and enjoy those moments of having that time to reflect with them. And they come back to our classes, they come back to us and say how much they appreciated that. We spoke a lot about the challenges now for us as faculty, staff, and students to carry on that legacy. What does that look like? How do we embody that in our classrooms, right? How do we embody that in things like the Elms Promise? So there's a bunch of different things that I think we're doing to live out the charism and the mission of the sisters. And we're so thankful again for the sisters who are able to present today. So thank you.
Very good partner on it.
Well, I volunteered because I never met a Mike I didn't like. Here we go. I got to tell you, I'm Beth Anderson, and when I'm not here at Elms as a trustee, I'm the superintendent of an alternative school district in Massachusetts, and I've committed my life to alternative education. And I'm a zealot about it. And so when I heard a couple of the sisters talk about alt-ed specifically inside of public education, it was very, very powerful for me. And so I really appreciate you for that, because you have to work there to know that what happens in the margins can positively affect the center, right? If you do it right. So, and you lead, you co-author with kids. So I really felt that in this presentation. So we stayed mostly here with this question, but I will say at least half of the table would answer, yes, we do feel we have a responsibility to carry before this presentation because they were educated or supported or raised their children with teachers and family members that were part of Sisters of St. Joseph. So that was really, really impactful, for us. And so we came away with four things, in response mostly to this first question. One was just how much respect for the camaraderie and the sisterhood of you all together for each other. The love that you have for each other and the support that you have done so that you can do this incredible work really came out of the presentation and all of the stories and your utter commitment in your spirituality to each other and how that's born. And I hope that doing the presentation validated how much you mean to each other and to the college. I feel like it's huge, and I feel like it should be onboarding. We didn't talk about this, but I wonder if this should be onboarding for new trustees. The second was a lot of emotional and deep gratitude to the education that the sisters provided, given that one of our table members is a recipient of that education, talked about reading and writing. Another, really, whose aunt is a sister of St. Joseph, raised her children with her, during some difficult times when she needed more support. And these stories were emblematic in the current times of what's been happening for over 300 years. The third was very powerful for me. We talked about how we got here because on the DEIJ committee, we understand how imperiled that is right now in this volatile world that we live in. And we need a space to be able to protect it. And this did it. This is our commitment to diverse populations, being inclusive, learning, and growing right here every day. And so defining that as our through line, which is something Kate and I, have really talked about in this journey, feels so important. And I saw all pieces of what I sometimes think of as a separate thing. We're going to talk about DEIJ over here. Those pieces, for me personally, came so much alive in this presentation. And that felt so resonant with what we talk about here at the college and supporting young people. So thank you for that. That is going to not only be impactful here and beautiful, but also have a strong impact on the way we have these conversations in the future. So appreciate, Kate and Harry's, insight in that as the sisters came together. And the last is just, we did start to talk about just a little bit of the impact, and wanting to make sure as trustees, we're consistently raising the impact that the sisters in their work have on Elms College, and make sure that we're bringing that into the current age. So thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to thank the sisters again, and I take a standing ovation again.